of expertise. But I've noticed that when I reviewed a little bit of her work, she also is very inviting and welcoming people into her world, just like she did with you. You know, how would you like to partner with me? And I noticed that she has done that in the past as well. So that speaks highly.
Very, very generous.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So let's talk a little bit about your field of expertise. Now, did you start out in this particular field? Or did you navigate to it?
Well, it's sort of yes and yes. My very first job, way back when, I taught modeling and charm to children. And so in many ways today, the work that I do in terms of helping leaders develop and elevate their performance and the performance of their organizations, it's sort of the same thing. I'm just dealing with a bigger audience, an older audience. But I've kind of navigated my way through the educational arena. I taught high school and was a professor and department chair at a university here in Southern California. And then I went back into industry and held several training management roles before going to a company where I really cut my teeth in training consulting and ultimately training development of product development and design work. And then about 15 years ago, I went into business for myself, and now I work with organizations around the globe, really, helping to build programs and systems that elevate performance.
Okay. So that's very interesting. So you kind of, when you went into business for yourself, did you ever see yourself as being a co-author of a book like this, or did that just?
Well, absolutely. You know, I think probably, 90% of us have writing a book on our bucket list. So it was always something that I really wanted to do, but I didn't know how it was going to manifest itself. And so I was very blessed that way.
Oh, very nice. Well, I know that also you have had some design awards as well. Can you share with us a little bit about that before we move on into the book?
Oh, sure. Thank you. I've been so fortunate over the course of my career to get to partner with just tremendously talented people. And so as a result of some of our partnerships and the different projects that we've worked on, I've been able to enjoy things like the 10 Best Training Product Award from Human Resource Executive Magazine. I've won a couple of Cindy's, an AFTRA award for some video work that was done. And then more recently, last year, I attended an amazing conference in Mumbai that was put on by the World Congress of HR and was honored with a Strategic Leadership Award. And then Training Industry magazine this past year gave me a readership award for one of the articles that I had written for their magazine that was most well-read.
Wow, very nice, very nice. So I'm very curious, Julie, as being a director of product development for Achieve Global, and also one of the world's largest commercial training and development companies. I mean, was there an educational course that kind of veered you in this particular direction? Did this come from professional coaching insights with other people? Because you also are a speaker and you also do some of that. So I'm kind of looking at this path because I find your career quite fascinating and all the little elements that go with it. So I'm trying to give our listeners kind of an idea, if somebody were to, be interested in this, how would they navigate? How would they, go this direction?
Yeah. It's interesting. There certainly are courses of study at many universities around instructional design and instructional technology and that sort of thing. For me, the path was a little bit more organic, having been a teacher, a classroom teacher, and had that experience, I then parlayed that into doing training, stand-up training work in corporate environments. And for me, that was really where the education, occurred. I learned a lot more than anybody on the other side of the table did, and really learned about what makes content stick, what helps people accept new ideas, how to make that transfer from concepts in a classroom to action back in the work place. And so it was those experiences that gave me sort of the repository of visceral understanding, the empathy, the real appreciation for how the rubber needs to meet the road, that set me up to be able to move into product development, designing programs that could make all of those things happen in a replicable way in an organization. So I think it was a lot of having had that experience and the blood, sweat, and tears that went into creating the learning in the moment, being able to translate that into codifying it and creating these packaged products that could make that happen more broadly in a scalable fashion. Does that make sense?
It does, and I really appreciate you saying, it was more organic for you, because I have been finding as I talk with professionals in various fields of expertise that they kind of have a similar thing happening. It's not something they specifically went out and studied for, but their experiences brought them to a specific place, a moment in time, a crossroad, if you will. And then they stepped out, they took that first step. And, like you just said, your experiences kind of really, lent itself to you developing this path of your own, which is awesome. When you step into a certain area and you realize you're really good at this, keep going with it.
Right. And I have to say, too, though, there was an element of sort of luck and chance with this as well, because I got to a crossroads where I actually needed to step back from the company that I was working for because of family obligations. Travel was getting crazy and that sort of thing. And so I was ready to resign. And my employer said, whoa, don't, let's not go crazy here. Let's figure something out. And they laid out two different opportunities. One that was marketing, which was an area I had studied in college, and then this product development path. And marketing would have been the natural one. That's the one that probably made the most sense on paper, but it was the instructional piece of it that really had my heart, and so gratefully I made that pivot.
That is wonderful. That's a really good story, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with us. And there's a lot of interest. Yes, there's a lot of interest in this field, and people do want to know, how do you become a motivational speaker? How do you become a stand-up trainer, in for corporate companies? And so it's nice that you've taken the time to do that with us today. So let's take a commercial break, and then when we come back, what we're going to do, we have selected, Julie and I got together, and we selected some sections out of the book, Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go, and we're going to share some of those readings, and then we're going to talk about, some of the great aspects of this amazing book. So we'll take a commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Jennifer Coolidge. The American Heart Association says the disco song Stayin' Alive is the near-perfect beat for hands-only CPR. If you see a teen or adult collapse from cardiac arrest, you only need 2 steps to help save a life. Call 911 and push hard and fast in the center of the chest to the beat of the song Stayin' Alive. Disco is back and it's saving lives. To learn more, go to heart.org/hands-only-CPR.
Nationally supported by the WellPoint Foundation.
Welcome back to Storytellers Campfire in Progress. And for those of you who are just now joining us, we are on our Author's Voice segment, and we have Charlie Checkers here, who is going to be sharing some readings out of the book we're featuring, Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go by Julie-Winkle-Giulioni. And then we also have Julie here herself today, and we've been sharing a little bit about her field of expertise. But I have a question, Charlie. Just before you read, Julie, I had a question I wanted to throw in here, and it's been on my mind because one of my favorite pastimes for many years now, when the kids were younger, I took them to the library. And we spent a lot of time there, and I was in the self-help books from every topic that you can think of. I love self-help books. But I also have been in the business self-help, career development type of books. And what I'd like to know is there's a pretty broad spectrum out there of books in this category. What do you think is in this book that is not, that may be set, help them grow or watch them go, set it apart from other self-help books in business or career?
That's a great question. I think as I step back and look at the field in general and then our book and kind of where it sits and what it does, I think what's unique about our approach is that we've really attempted to simplify what in many cases has become unnaturally overly complicated. We've really tried to strip this concept of career development back to its basics and have taken the position that career development can no longer be about processes and paperwork and programs and promotions and all of the artifacts of development that we've pointed to and thought of as development in the past. And so what we've tried to do is really invite the reader to, update, their definition of career development given today's reality, and to position career development as really a human endeavor, as conversation between a manager and an employee and others, as a way to recast what could be more administrative and process-oriented in a human form.
And I appreciate you sharing that, and I agree with what you said on how your book actually simplifies this. I have purchased and checked out books from the library on various different topics related to business and career development, and I'm 10 pages into it, and I'm like, okay, no way. Just put it down, because it did in the very first opening parts. They would get very complicated, and what was very pleasing to me about Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go is the fact that it was an easy read. It was simplified. I actually finished it in one day. I mean, just
Yay!
It was just that simple. And Charlie is a very avid reader herself, and she can pick up a book and read it very quickly too. But what was interesting is it wasn't just the fact that I could read it fast. I could retain the highlights and the points out of it, and the way you laid it out. So and that stayed with me as over the months that before you came onto the show, different things that I found that I absolutely loved in the book.